Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sofa Series Artist Spotlight. Today with me is a very, very, very old friend of mine, tenor extraordinaire, bass player extraordinaire, arranger, sometimes composer, Jon Lee Keenan. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, yeah.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
All right, so tell us, tell everybody about where you're from, and kind of like where did you study? What did you study? You have like a million degrees in music. You're the most diplomaed human I know. So take us a little bit on your journey and how you got to LA.
Yeah, Leslie and I both went to UNLV, good old Las Vegas, and we
Go
actually had a
Reds.
good education there. It was a good music department, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And but there's no music in Las Vegas. Ironically, it's all cover bands and shows, and like none of
Yeah.
it
I
great,
know.
like
It's like this
glorious,
weird, this weird
So we,
little oasis, right? Like all these people sort of descend and learn all the goods about like the music world, and then they just go away and go back and go out to New York and LA, and
yeah. So I moved to LA and came out here for grad school in choral conducting, and then ended up doing voice at USC,
hmm
and still out here singing everywhere I can.
as often as you can, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
luckily, I'm on the east side of town, so I've been avoiding the riots and
Oh, good.
um, not feeling too threatened. Although today I drove somewhere and drove right through a whole big protest, like on the east side here. So I was like, all right, that's good. I'm glad I found it. Found
Yeah,
it.
right. It's getting everywhere, which is good, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are. So let's go back to UNLV a little bit. Let's do our little like this is your life, Jon Lee Keenan,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with me is no, just kidding. You at UNLV you studied choral, like music education, vocal performance, and jazz bass. Correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So you were like the busiest human at UNLV for sure. So why? I guess at that time, why did you sort of like spread yourself so thin into all three areas?
Well, I notice in my old age and having been in a lot of schools that singers don't always get the best musical education. They're all kind of wandering around wondering why they have to take music theory and sort of
Mm-hmm.
hating it. And like yeah, the people in a music school that really get a solid music education are the composers and the jazz musicians. The jazz musicians have to have a good ear. So the other thing I noticed is that a lot of singers don't study all the eras of music as thoroughly as they oughta. They kind of get stuck in the glorious bel canto years of singing or whatever they're good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so by studying conducting a lot, I was able to study a much broader history of music, and all the early music I've studied in choral music has influenced my early music singing now because I didn't get in that to very late. I do a lot of Baroque music now, and I
Yeah.
didn't even know that was a thing in
Yeah,
Las
yeah,
Vegas.
exactly. I didn't know about it either.
We didn't have early music at UNLV. That was
Right.
one thing that was kind of sorely missing there. So it doesn't make sense to try to sing Baroque music if you've never studied Renaissance music and all the gestures and the sort of the rhetoric of that era. So when I see, and I hear recordings of bel canto era specialist singers going backwards, it's like they're just missing. It could be missing. So I find that through the jazz training, I got a good ear training, and through the conducting, I got a good kind of scope of all musical styles and solid musical training that 100% influences my solo singing in everything I do, and enables me to be successful in a way that people that just study Italian opera, or if I had only studied Italian opera, I
Right,
might
and
not have
even
the skills I have.
even in the conducting class that all of the majors had to take anyway, it was like such a fucking chore. It was like not very comprehensive. We all had to learn how to conduct. I think what was "And the Glory of the Lord" from the Messiah, and that was about it. And so I'd never really considered that you had a bit of a leg up, that you had so much more breadth of material
A
to
lot
go
more score
into.
study. Conducting
Yeah.
majors are forced to do a lot more score study than voice majors. I mean, that's the honest truth.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. for sure, for sure. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's changing now. Maybe music departments are getting a little bit hip to um, where areas are lacking in voice training specifically. I don't know. That's all speculative. But I guess now you're sort of you're at the helm of a at the collegiate level. Are you able to kind of go into those details with your students?
Not really. I teach private lessons, and it's
Yeah.
just like if I try to digress into anything that's not specific to the voice teaching, I digress as much as I get away with. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no chance to go in through ear training and score study, really. I mean, I teach them what I know. I try to get them to look at the score, certainly, and get them to sing in tune. But it's more, I don't have time. I do mostly private lessons at the college, and it's mostly geared. You know how voice lessons are. There's no time to get into all of that. Like, you just say, oh yeah, by the way, you need to study the score,
Yeah,
like, or
look into
whatever.
this.
Like,
Go
point
down
out where
this
it's
little.
problematic or whatever, and give them
Yeah.
tips, and like you try to encourage. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't get to teach everyone to be as well rounded as I became, but
Mm-hmm.
it does have its advantages. I don't know.
But you're super duper mega well rounded. I mean, like, how do you find that that having the conductor training? So now you have a bachelor's and a master's in conducting, in choral conducting. How do you find that like informs your own score preparation? How does it help you?
Well, I have to know how the music goes first, not just my part.
No.
And like it's sort of like they teach you that if you're showing up on the job, and if everything were to fall apart around you, you'd still be able to. If you're the one singer that can sing your part accurately, while everyone else and begins and ends at the wrong time, that conductor will stand up and be like, "Who is that guy?"
Yeah.
And like, and the truth of the matter, it is now that I've been in the trenches, no opera has every singer starting and ending at the right times. It doesn't. It's kind of a myth. So you have to be that bulletproof, and you have to just sing the right thing. You have to fix the whole show half the time.
Yeah.
If everything goes awry, which it does, it's people. You understand. It gets crazy up there, and you don't know when to come in musically. It's not going to happen.
It's a big old mess. Yeah, there's like way too many literal moving parts, for that ship. So I mean, but you don't do much conducting nowadays, do you?
Almost none. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
done any conducting in many years, but
Yeah.
I just took all the information from the score study. It didn't do me any. I mean, if I think I might do some conducting in my old age if I ever get around to like, wanting to be in one place for a long time and direct a church choir or something. I think I could really enjoy that, and maybe I'll have the skills to do it well.
Yeah.
Not just be a total hack, hopefully, or at least figure out,
Yeah, just sort of flapping around and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
You were supposed to start there, Oh, that's my job. Got it. So you're still playing, so you still kind of keep up your guitar playing, your bass playing, mostly bass, right? Yeah. So how active is that in your life?
Well, compared to any amazing professional bass player, I'm sort of a hack now because I sing all the time, and that's what I do. So, I have a band with my wife. We're called Citizen Kitten, and that we actually have been playing out a lot over the last few years, and so my bass playing has gotten better again. Like I'm kind of back to like playing it all the time, and whatever. So it really just has to do with how often I'm playing and yeah, what happens. I mean, jazz bass playing, there's no limit to how good you could be at it, and everybody that's doing it every day is better than the people that are not doing it every day. So that's just the reality of it. So I consider my bass playing sort of a glorified hobby at this point. But.
At this point, yeah. You're so modest. You're really freaking good, even though you're still like just sort of a hack, a quote unquote. So then, how did you get into early music singing? Because, I was there with you at UNLV, and not a once did we really go into anything pre-Mozart. Not even Bach, which is like absurd. I sort of knew it, we glossed over it, and then, Mozart is really where it begins. So how did you get into early music singing?
So I don't have the most Italianate sound, and I'm not a giant tall guy. So nobody is begging me to sing the leading roles in Italian operas, which is what, like, the whole, if you're a tenor, that's all you learn. Like I thought I thought that's what I was going to be doing, singing the leading roles in Italian operas or something like that. Yeah. That would be most of my jobs. And those are important skills to have, and I've got to be able to do that. But I wasn't good at that compared to the people that are like really, deserve to be famous doing it. I'm not cut out to like tour the world at opera houses singing Rodolfo's. So, but I really liked singing. And I didn't really want to give up, when I didn't get hired by any opera companies to sing Rodolfo over and over again. So I just kind of hung in there and kept going to school and doing every job I could. And I was good at singing. And then eventually I was like, oh my God, like there's all this music in German and other languages and like Bach, like there's this whole, like Bach and all the other, there's more than Bach. There's so much stuff. Even everything. I don't know. So I got into it just sort of because I naturally sound better on German music. And, there's just there's a lot of tastes that go on in the classical music world. And if you don't sound appropriate, no one's going to hire you to do that. It just so happens that all my musicianship skill sets pay off in Bach too, because if you aren't a crackerjack musician, you aren't going to even come close. So it just happens that I just started doing lots and lots of Bach because my voice sounds great in German repertoire and I'm a good musician and it just works. I don't know. There are lots of tenors that don't work in Bach, but I hung in the singing business long enough to figure out I was good at Bach. And that I liked Bach, and that I don't know, it's just been a great knack. But if I had never come to LA, I never would have figured it out because there's no chances to do that in a lot of places.
Yeah. And also, like, there's this, like, great corollary between singers who do new music and singers who do early music. There's lots of crossover because of the quality of, the kind of sound that is needed, that needs a lot of versatility, a lot of flexibility, a lot of... a lot of willingness to improvise and to kind of create and kind of go freely with a moment or a thing. So you kind of fell into some new music stuff. How did that happen?
Well, it's funny because I went to USC, which is like the opposite of a new music school. Like they teach you nothing about new music. There's kind of some composers in a class, and you maybe sing one of their songs. Yeah. And there's like 3 of the most old-fashioned composers in the whole world writing on the faculty, and they're all famous, but they're all writing music that's terribly not new music. It's wonderful, but it's not teaching you to have skills in the new music world that you need. So that's where my jazz bass playing came into play, and having those musicianship and score skills, and from being in the master chorale. I've been in the master chorale for 10 years, and we do a lot of premieres in the master chorale. And then I got hired on by the industry opera, who does a lot of new things, and it's just been trial by fire. That scene that you and I did together, that's the only time I've ever been asked to sing quarter tones notated in that way. The only time. I know that people that have a degree like yours like know what that is and like do it.
But
like I did a score where they actually wrote in the score, sing this a quarter step sharp or something like that, and I'm going like, they actually have a notation for that. Like, why are you putting that in like words? Like you're writing that out in English. And I'm going, you know what? I'm looking around the room. Not anyone in this room has ever even seen that notation.
No.
And these are professional musicians. Like, so it's interesting. It's kind of separate. They didn't teach us those little funny sharps at UNLV either. You know what I mean? It's sort of a secret. They don't want to overwhelm us.
Like it's like amazing. It's like I think we both were going into our DMAs about the same time, and like USC was the school that rejected me, and UCSD was like yes. So it's like it's so perfect. And you went there, and I went where I did. But yeah, it's like I think about that a lot. It's like I wonder are we doing, like, how much of a disservice are we doing to singers if we're just sort of making it clear that the only way to have an opera career with a capital C is to sing Rodolfo or to sing Carmen, and I'm never gonna sing a Carmen. That shit's too big for me, So like, where do I fit? How does that work for me? And so I don't know. I think about it a lot. Like, what would opera schools look like if it was really rep inclusive? And like, because I think that more and more singers are getting more and more work doing new music. Like, it's a thing, you know? Bigger,
Well,
bigger. Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, last I checked, it's 2020, and we just call it music now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know, like like new music. Like I think we should call Mozart old music and
It's
call
old.
stuff that's being written now music.
It's just music, right? Yeah, exactly. Schoenberg is old. Shit's over 100 years old. It's old.
There's just old music, and then there's music,
And
rather
then
than
there's
music and new music. You know, like whatever. Like
let's lead that charge, John Keenan. Let's do that. Let's like abandon and abolish the new. It's just music, y'all.
music.
It's just music. Get over it. Sometimes you'll have to sing quarter tones, and they're real. It's a real sound.
Yeah.
Figure it out. You know.
For sure.
So where do you like what sorts of work are you doing right now? Like, I mean, how did the that's the question, right? Like, what's the quarantine?
In the post-apocalyptic world, I've done this project. I haven't done a ton.
Mm-hmm.
People are having me do things remotely. The band is talking about doing some live streaming. I've sent off a few demos. Probably the only project that's really been big that's as a result of this quarantine is right before the quarantine we were doing Sweetland up in LA with the industry, right. And the third weekend of 4 weekends of performances became a filming weekend, and then the fourth weekend evaporated. Mm-hmm. But we got to make a movie of what we were doing, which we were not planning on doing otherwise. So right. So it kind of turned it into a whole thing.
Do you know when that's going to be released? Have you gotten that yet?
It's been released. Oh yeah, it's
out. Oh, okay.
They got it. They pumped that out. It was out within a month. I mean, a few weeks later they had it done, and it's good.
Yeah.
And the funny nature of that show is that it's in two parts. The main opera is two things happening simultaneously, and no cast ever saw the other cast. Oh. And there were two directors, so they took turns like coming and working with us and whatever. And so that last weekend, so I should say the last weekend of filming enabled us to all to see the parts that we're not in for the first time.
I see. What's the story?
It's kind of a disturbing story of, it's very stylized, but it's sort of the telling of the first Thanksgiving. And there are people who are arrivals that come on some kind of a stylized ship or something and conquer. Mm-hmm. And then there are hosts, and the scene that I'm not in is called Feast, and it's sort of the story of the first Thanksgiving, but there's a love story mixed in with a countertenor, mm-hmm. who's one of the arrivals, and a young Indian princess is one of the hosts, and it's very much this sort of, it's very unnerving. It's very disturbing. That's all I can say, and it's very apropos of the current political climate, and it's basically an opera to bring awareness of our, like one of my lines that really hit home was, there's a preacher character that I talked to, I was the captain, and I say, tell me what dominion is. And I just think of the way that we've justified religion to kind of conquer the earth and own it and strip it of all its resources and murder all the natives. Mm-hmm. And it's just sort of bizarre. It's just so bizarre. Like, and then I see that word at church now, and I think, well, what does dominion mean? What is the message in the church of dominion? Like, it's something wonderful that we have grossly misunderstood and grossly misinterpreted.
Yeah.
And as you know, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of an unnerving story of the first Thanksgiving is what Sweetland is, but it's so much more than that. It's the ego's need to conquer. Mm-hmm. And how evil that is.
Mm-hmm. So everybody go to the industry. It's .org, I think, right? Check it out. Go see it. I didn't realize it had already been released, so that's what I'm going to be doing the next hour. It sounds amazing. So I guess we're all sort of like pushing the pause button, right? So what do you think the next year for you looks like?
Still TBD. I keep seeing articles going back and forth of how dangerous singing is in the middle of this epidemic. So we'll see. I mean, it could, we don't need to get into those details, but there's speculation that, it's terrible that it's the singing caused the spread of the disease. And then they're taking a step back and they're saying, well, wait a second. singers have rehearsals and they hug each other at the rehearsals. So like, let's just be realistic here. Like, it might not be the act
The
of singing
actual,
itself
yeah,
that's so terrible.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Just
so
closeness.
TBD.
Yeah.
I see things. You know, I saw a video that I found kind of inspiring. I'm gonna do a little plug for a group I don't know much about called Collegium 1704. I
Okay.
think they're European,
Yeah.
but Ruben Valenzuela from San Diego posted a live stream of theirs. This is about a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, and all the singers were doing some Bach and wearing masks and socially, you know, separated out, physically separated
Really?
out, and the sound was glorious. You could barely tell anybody was wearing masks, and they had these sort of ornate church graphics on the mask, and everybody had kind of had a mask made from the same piece of fabric, so they were exactly the same. They were part of the same pattern,
That's
and
fascinating. Were they
you know,
any
when we have
like
six,
bigger? Was there more like room
mm-hmm,
in the?
there's a
Oh,
little room. Yeah,
fascinating.
it was well done, like for singing,
Fascinating.
and yeah, it was a double motet, so maybe 10 singers and 10 players at the most. Maybe it was more like 6 and 6. I forget now, but not a huge production, which means got a big empty church. You can have 12 people show up and put on a concert with masks on, and but the quality was top notch, professional quality. Could not tell the difference. So that was like great. It's like, gosh, people are still doing it, you know, and we're
Yeah.
only a month in.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's time to be creative, companies. You gotta think about it. You gotta consider it because just programming like I don't know any war horse opera. You have to reconsider the space and the
definitely
time. It's just like nothing is ever going to be the same for at least like maybe another year. This is it, right? This is what
right.
it's like these days. Buddy, well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and talk about your musical life, and which is varied and super interesting. So everybody, go check out Citizen Kitten. Not to like steal your thunder, but your wife is a pretty fucking great singer herself. Uh, she's kind of amazing. So Amanda, if you're around, hey. So check out Citizen Kitten and go to industry.org, I believe it is, and watch Sweetland, the opera. So thank you so much, Johnny boy.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.